I will say this for the umpteenth time. Any sign of physical violence in a relationship is a red flag. Run, my friend. In my bid to continue highlighting the dangers of gender-based violence, especially against women, they are the overwhelming survivors and victims of this scourge after all, I shall be recounting stories around the same. Now, for those of you that have watched the Tyler Perry film For Colored Girls, you may recall a character called Crystal that was played by Kimberly Elise and her post-traumatic stress disorder suffering husband Bo Willie, who was played by Michael Ealy, and the terrible levels of beatings that she received from this particular man. And unfortunately, she was so in love, so taken by him, that this conversation I'm going to outline aptly sums up her predicament. Bo Willie said, "You love me?" Crystal said, "Man, I've loved you since I was 14. Even when she showed up to work with black eyes and scars, she still protected Bo and went back home until the worst possible thing happened. Bo, in one of his episodes, decided to take his 2 children and literally threw them out their 4th floor apartment, to which they obviously plummeted to their deaths below. He literally killed his own children during an episode. That is one of the most harrowing scenes in that film, not in terms of violence, but just the idea that a father would throw his own children to their death. Very sad. Now ask yourself this moment. How many women do you know that have been violently murdered by their husbands or boyfriends over the last year alone? And how many have been shot at or shot, battered to death, hanged, brutalized or stabbed? And how many have gone on to also kill their children and any relative within vicinity? Most of these brutes, mostly men, but a few women, turn on themselves and commit suicide after the brutality of their actions dawns on them. And as if that were, not enough, they seem to come under a terrible influence and only realize after they have done the unthinkable. Well, none of these men started their first date beating or kicking, now did they? It begins with a shove first, then a slap, then 2, then a belting or whipping, then some punches, kicks, and much worse. Many women have been in situations where they've had miscarriages, have had broken ribs, hospitalized, punctured eyes, all kinds of brutality. And why would you want someone to continue with that kind of situation? So the answer is summed up in a conversation below, which I'm about to mention. Woman 1, why do you keep going back? Victim, because I love him. Insult, he's a good man, he just has issues. Besides, my family said I must go back. He is my husband. Where will I go if I leave him? I have nowhere to go. These are the kind of conversations that take place. Indeed, we face a gargantuan social challenge in GBV. I am aware we also have violence from women, and I shall be speaking about these in future videos such as this one. But for today, I want to focus on the overwhelming numbers and its violence against women. As for poor Crystal from our earlier film, after she comes to terms with the terrible loss she suffers, which is the children that died and then the husband who's locked up in jail, she narrates in a voice in these words. There's a part of me that knows it happened, but most of me feels like I'm dreaming. Am I awake? This must be what death feels like. Please do not be a victim, be a survivor. I am saying it again. Where any violence is experienced, don't wait. Don't waste your time. Leave. It is better you're a divorced and alive person than a married and dead wife.